The forbidden door. The stars outside the giant space station shined like diamonds in the black sky. Inside the shining walls of the alien palace, everything was silent, calm, and beautiful. But not for the human. Ethan, a young human diplomat, walked alone through the glowing halls. He had been invited to the royal ceremony of the Zarenth Empire, one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy. He was supposed to stay in the guest wing, but Ethan got curious. He walked down a quiet corridor lit with soft purple lights. Every few steps, strange alien writing appeared on the walls. Ethan couldn't read it, but something deep inside him said, "You should not be here." Still, he walked. Then he saw a door. It was carved with golden symbols and glowing with soft light. The door looked old and sacred. A soft mist flowed beneath it. Next to it was a small plaque in alien script. Ethan had no idea what it meant. He paused. Maybe I should go back, he thought. But what if it's just a prayer room or meditation place? Curiosity pulled him forward. He touched the side panel. The door hissed and opened. Inside was a large room filled with steam and warm light. In the middle stood a young alien woman with pale glowing skin, long silver blue hair, and large violet eyes. She was standing in a shallow pool of water, unclothed, steam rising from her skin. Beautiful golden tattoos glowed faintly across her back. She turned slowly, her eyes meeting Ethan's. For a second, the world stopped. Then, "You!" she screamed, grabbing a cloth and covering herself. Her face turned red with anger and something like fear. Ethan froze. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" Too late. Loud alarms echoed. The room turned red as guards stormed in. The woman shouted something in her language. The guards looked shocked and raised their weapons. One of them grabbed Ethan and slammed him to the ground. "Wait! I didn't mean to see anything, I didn't know," Ethan shouted, but the guards did not listen. The woman stepped forward, now wrapped in a long robe. She looked down at him with a strange mix of anger and fear in her eyes. "You saw me," she whispered in perfect English. "You saw me unclothed, human." Ethan blinked. "I said I'm sorry." She cut him off. "No, you don't understand. In our culture, if someone sees a royal body in the sacred cleansing room before bonding," she knelt beside him and whispered into his ear, "then they must marry. The royal, or both shall die." Ethan's heart dropped. "Wait, what?" "Say nothing," she whispered quickly. "Say you entered by fate. Say nothing else." The guards lifted him up roughly. The lead soldier looked at the woman. "Princess Vera," he said, "does the human accept the bond?" Vera looked at Ethan. Her eyes were serious now. "Say, yes," she whispered. Ethan didn't know what to say. Everything had happened so fast. One moment he was walking, the next he was about to be executed, or married to an alien princess. His heart pounded. Yes, he said slowly. The guard nodded. "He has accepted, the tribunal will decide." They dragged Ethan and Vera away, side by side but not touching. The whole palace was whispering now. Alien nobles stared. Some pointed. Some looked angry. Others, amused. Ethan looked over at Vera. "I'm Ethan." "I know," she said quietly. "And now you're my husband, at least for today." He blinked. "This is insane." Vera looked straight ahead. "You've only seen the beginning." The trial of honor. The royal courtroom of the Zarenth Empire was not made for humans. Ethan stood at the center of the vast hall, surrounded by glowing walls and floating alien elders with hard, glowing eyes. Above him, hundreds of nobles watched from balconies, whispering in a dozen alien languages. The air was heavy, not with heat, but with judgment. His hands were chained in front of him. He wasn't a criminal, but he wasn't free either. Princess. Vera stood to his left, dressed in royal armor now, her silver blue hair tied behind her head. She no longer looked like a soft bathhouse goddess. She looked like a warrior ready for battle. Ethan leaned toward her and whispered, "Why does this feel like I'm already dead?" Vera didn't smile. Because to them, you already are. A deep, ancient voice boomed from above. The High Elder, a six-eyed creature with golden scales, floated down. Human Ethan of Earth, it said coldly. You have broken the sacred law of purity. You viewed the princess in the cleansing waters without ritual bond. The punishment is death. Uwes, crowd murmured. Ethan felt sweat on his back. The elder continued, but there is another way. One path of honor remains, the sacred bond. The hall turned silent. If you accept the princess as your forever mate, your life will be spared. The bond will protect your name. Your people will not be blamed. The elder's eyes burned into him. Do you choose death or the bond? Ethan looked at Vera. Her face was unreadable. Then she slowly nodded. He took a breath. His voice was small, but clear. I choose the bond. The elder didn't smile. Then let the trial of honor begin. They were led to a new chamber, far from the courtroom. The walls glowed in shifting colors, blue, violet, then red. At the center stood a round table with sharp golden needles, scrolls, and cups filled with thick purple liquid. Ethan frowned. This doesn't look like any wedding I've seen. It's not, Vera said. It's a test. What kind of test? One that decides if our bond is true or a lie. Before Ethan could ask more, a priestess entered the room. She was tall, with skin like crystal and eyes like fire. You will answer 3 questions, she said. If your answers match in spirit, the bond is real. If they do not, the punishment will be death. Ethan stared at her. Wait. Death. Again? Vera sighed. Everything ends in death around here. They were seated facing each other. The priestess asked the first question. What is your greatest fear? Vera answered without delay. Being trapped in a life I did not choose. Ethan blinked. After a pause, he said, losing someone because I wasn't fast enough to save them. The priestess nodded slowly. Not the same, but close. Both speak of helplessness. She asked again, what is something you would protect even if it cost your life? Vera said, the weak. Ethan replied, innocent lives. Again, the priestess nodded. Aligned. The final question was whispered like a spell. What do you believe the other truly wants from this bond? Vera looked into Ethan's eyes. Freedom, she said softly, even if he doesn't know it yet. Ethan looked down, then up. I think she wants someone who doesn't use her. Someone real. The priestess rose, her crystal face unreadable. The bond is acceptable. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Vera stood and gave him a sharp look. That was close. He smiled weakly. You think? Suddenly a servant ran into the room, panting. Princess, an assassination attempt, outside the West Wing. Vera's eyes widened. She grabbed Ethan's hand and ran. Looks like our wedding party has begun, she muttered. Do I get cake? Ethan asked, running beside her. Vera's grip tightened. If we survive, I'll bake you one myself. The pretend bond, the first night of marriage, began with silence. No music, no flowers, no smiles. Just 2 strangers locked inside a golden room, pretending to be in love. Ethan sat on one side of the chamber, staring at a strange floating lamp. The room was beautiful, walls of soft silver, a bed made of sky silk and windows showing stars outside. But Ethan didn't feel comfort. He felt trapped. Vera stood at the window, her back to him. Her royal armor was gone, replaced by a long, soft robe, but her voice was still sharp when she spoke. This bond is not real. It is protection, nothing more. Ethan nodded. Got it. A fake marriage to avoid a real execution? Exactly. He stood up and walked toward the edge of the room. So what now? We just act like a happy couple in front of everyone? Yes, Vera said. You hold my hand, you stand beside me, you smile at the council, and you say nothing stupid. Ethan smirked. I'm great at saying nothing. I've practiced on Earth a lot. For the first time, Vera almost smiled, but she stopped herself. Tomorrow, she said, there will be a public ritual. We must show our bond. If they see doubt, they will call us liars. Then we both die. Still with the death thing, huh? Ethan sighed. Vera turned to him. This is not a joke, human. I know, Ethan said quietly. But jokes help me survive. The next day, the entire city gathered in the Great Ring, a massive arena floating above the sea. Ethan stood beside Vera on a glowing platform. Alien nobles watched from crystal seats. Dancers floated in the air. The scent of strange flowers filled the wind. A tall alien priest raised his arms. Let the bond of Vera of House Laran and Ethan of Earth be shown. Vera reached for Ethan's hand. He hesitated, but then took it. Her fingers were warm, strong. The priest handed them a small glowing orb. Speak the words of unity. Vera whispered the ancient vow in her language. Ethan repeated the words, softly even though he didn't understand them. The orb glowed blue. The crowd clapped politely, but not everyone smiled. From the corner of his eye, Ethan saw a tall alien in red robes watching him with cold eyes. He leaned toward Vera. Who's that? Vera followed his gaze. Her face went pale. That's Lord Chiron. He wanted to marry me. Before all this. Charming, Ethan muttered. As the ritual ended, the two were led to a balcony to wave at the crowd. Ethan leaned closer. Do they really believe we're in love? Vera whispered back. They want to believe it. That's enough. For now. Later, that night back in their room, Ethan pulled off his formal robe and flopped onto the soft bed. Do all fake marriages have this much pressure? He asked. Vera sat near the window watching the stars. I never wanted any marriage. Not real, not fake. Because of duty? Because no one ever saw me as me, she said. Only as a tool, a name, a symbol. Ethan sat up. Well, I saw you yelling at the guards. That felt pretty real. Vera laughed, just a little. Maybe you're not the worst fake husband. Ethan smiled. Maybe you're not the worst fake wife. A quiet pause settled between them. Not cold. Not tense, just quiet. Then, boom, the window shattered. A blast of energy struck the wall. Guards screamed outside. Ethan jumped to his feet. What now? Vera grabbed a hidden blade from under the floor panel. Assassins, she said calmly. They don't believe in this bond. Great. Can we pretend to be dead instead? She tossed him a plasma pistol. Try not to shoot yourself. They moved together, him clumsy, her graceful, as shadows rushed in from the broken window. In the chaos, Ethan covered her back. She took down 3 attackers in seconds. One rushed at Ethan, and by pure panic, he pulled the trigger. The alien dropped. Vera looked at him surprised. You saved me. I aimed at the floor, Ethan said. But hey, I'll take the win. Later, with the room sealed and guards posted, Ethan lay back on the bed, breathing hard. Still think we're pretending? He asked. Vera didn't answer. She just sat beside him and didn't move away. Outside the broken window, the stars kept shining. Secrets in the shadows. Ethan wasn't supposed to hear anything. He wasn't even supposed to be there. It was the middle of the night and the palace was quiet. Too quiet. Vera had fallen asleep near the window, wrapped in a blanket, her face peaceful for once. Ethan couldn't sleep. Not after the attack. He walked through the halls thinking about everything, how one wrong door had led to fake vows, near death, and blades in the dark. And now, something felt off. He couldn't explain it, but something pulled him toward the eastern wing, the part of the palace guests were told to avoid. He followed the shadowy hallway until he heard low voices coming from behind a heavy red curtain. The voices were familiar. One of them belonged to Lord Chiron. the noble who once wanted to marry Vera. The other was a voice Ethan didn't recognize. Curiosity got the better of him. Carefully, he moved behind a pillar and leaned closer. The human was never part of the plan, said Chiron coldly. He's a fool, replied the second voice, raspy and cruel. But now he's useful. His presence has angered the people. That's what we wanted, yes? Yes, Chiron hissed. Let them rise. Let them demand justice. And when the chaos begins, we strike. We eliminate the royal line. The empire will fall, and I will take the throne. Ethan's eyes widened. This wasn't about marriage. This was a trap, and Vera was part of it, whether she knew or not. And what of the princess? The raspy voice asked. She dies with him, Chiron said. No one will suspect me. The human will be blamed for it all. Ethan backed away, heart pounding. He turned and ran, nearly tripping over the long alien carpets. He didn't stop, until he reached the chamber and slammed the door shut behind him. Vera jerked awake. What's wrong? They're planning to kill you, Ethan said, breathless. Chiron and someone else, they're going to destroy the empire, and they'll blame me. Vera's face darkened. Explain. Everything. Ethan told her all. He'd heard. Every word. Every detail. By the end, Vera was silent. Her hands were shaking, but her voice stayed calm. My cousin. Chiron. I should have seen it. He always wanted the throne, and I... She looked down. I thought I could use this fake bond to protect myself from him. I didn't think he would go this far. Ethan frowned. You mean, you did pull me into that chamber on purpose? She nodded slowly. I needed someone the council didn't control. Someone bold. Someone human. He stepped back. So I really was a pawn. I thought you would just play along. Smile. Nod. Keep me alive long enough to escape, but now we're both in it. She looked up at him. Now we have no choice but to survive together. By morning, the palace was in unrest. Protesters gathered at the gates. Whispers of the unholy bond between a human and the princess spread like fire. Ethan and Vera stood before the council to calm the nobles, but it was clear. The empire was splitting. Later, back in the chamber, Vera stood at the window again, her arms crossed. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, holding the same orb they used for their bond. He stared at it. Do you think this thing actually works? He asked. Vera didn't answer. Instead, she walked over, took the orb, and held it tightly in her hands. Suddenly, it glowed red. That means danger, she whispered. Danger from where? She looked him straight in the eyes. From inside. That night, Vera handed Ethan a small data pad. What's this? Coordinates. An old escape route. From before. I was a princess. A hidden ship is there. Ethan raised a brow. You want to run? Not forever. Just far enough to survive. We find proof. We return when we can expose them. And if we don't make it? Vera touched his shoulder gently. Then at least we die on our terms, not theirs. Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. He didn't know when he stopped pretending, but now, this bond felt real. The chase through the stars. The ship wasn't supposed to fly. It hadn't moved in 20 years. But tonight, it screamed into the sky like a phoenix escaping fire. Ethan gripped the controls with shaky hands as alarms blared behind him. Vera stood beside him, one hand holding the wall, the other clutching her blade. Her royal robes were gone. She now wore sleek armor from a time when she was just a soldier, not a princess. Behind them, the palace burned. I thought you said this thing was stealth, Ethan shouted as red lights flashed on the screen. It was stealthy. 2 decades ago, Vera yelled. Just keep flying. Behind them, 3 sharp-winged royal pursuit ships launched from the Zareth hangars. They moved like shadows, fast and merciless. Ethan flipped switches, pulling the old vessel into a steep turn. The ship groaned like a dying beast. Vera looked out the window, her face pale. If they hit the engine core, we explode. No pressure, Ethan muttered. Got any tricks? Vera's eyes narrowed. Yes. Turn left now. He yanked the stick left. Outside, one of the enemy ships zipped past and clipped a tower. It exploded in midair. One down, she said, almost smiling. I like your kind of tricks. They burst through the clouds and escaped into orbit, stars shining ahead like promises. But 2 enemy ships still followed. Hyperdrive is too old, Ethan said. We won't make it across the system. Then we go down. Not out. Vera, replied. Ethan blinked. Down where? To the shadow moon. He remembered the stories. No law, no lights, no friends. Only smugglers, monsters, and ghosts. Perfect vacation spot, he said. I was born there, she added. He looked at her. She didn't smile. They crashed into the shadow moon's dusty atmosphere with smoke trailing behind them. The ship skidded across black rock and came to a stop near jagged cliffs. Inside, everything was dark. Ethan coughed and unbuckled. Still alive? Vera stood slowly, brushing dirt from her arms. You fly like a wild beast. And you plan like a lunatic, he said. She raised an eyebrow. And yet, we live. They grabbed what little supplies they could. Outside, the moon's air was breathable but cold. Wind howled between sharp stones. The sun barely touched the surface. They ran into the rocky wilds, hiding in caves and crevices. Above them, the enemy ship scanned from the sky. They're hunting, Ethan said, pressing against a wall. They won't stop. Not until they see our corpses. Then we give them something else to chase. Later that night, they built a small fire deep in the cave. Ethan sat with his back to the stone, staring into the flames. Vera sat across from him, her blade beside her, silent. You ever think, Ethan said quietly, how crazy this all is? She looked up. I mean, he continued, one door. That's all it took. One stupid mistake, and now I'm married to a princess, flying stolen ships, dodging assassins, hiding in caves. Vera's lips curled into a rare smile. Some would call that fate. Ethan chuckled. I call it insane. She looked into the fire. I was never meant to rule. I was trained to kill. Smile for the nobles, yes, but kill in silence when told. You confuse them. You don't follow the script. That's because no one gave me one, Ethan said. They shared a long, quiet look. Then, a sound outside. Ethan jumped. You hear that? Vera grabbed her blade. Stay low. A shadow passed outside the cave entrance, tall, with glowing red eyes. She raised her hand, motioning for silence, but it was too late. The creature sniffed the air, then roared. Run, Vera whispered. They grabbed their gear and bolted deeper into the cave tunnels. The roar echoed behind them. Ethan looked back. That's not a soldier, he shouted. That's a monster, Vira replied. Welcome to the shadow moon. The human's rage. Ethan opened his eyes to darkness and pain. A deep buzzing sound filled the air. Metal walls. Cold floor. No Vera. He was alone. Again. His body ached, his side bruised. The last thing he remembered was falling. Vera pushing him into a lower tunnel. Before that monster charged at her. She had turned to fight. Alone. He had begged her not to. She only said, Live, Ethan, even if I don't. And now, she was gone. Ethan forced himself up, stumbling. His wrists had been cuffed, but he found a jagged edge on the wall and began cutting through it. His heart pounded. Not from fear, but something stronger. They took her, whoever they were. Monsters, rebels, bounty hunters. He didn't care anymore. He would get her back. In a nearby control room above the cave tunnels, Vera hung in. Chains. Her face was bruised, her armor torn. A group of alien scavengers circled her, laughing. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just watched the shadows. One of the scavenger leaders, a hulking lizard-like creature, leaned close. Where is your human toy? He hissed. We saw your fire. We smelled your blood. Vera spit at his feet. He'll find you, she said coldly. And when he does, you'll pray for silence. They laughed, But then silence did come. The power suddenly flickered. The lights dimmed. One of the guards stepped toward the control console, and the screen exploded in his face. Another guard turned toward the door. It hissed open. Nothing there. Then, boom, a flash grenade rolled in. The scavengers roared in pain. Ethan stepped out of the smoke with fire in his eyes, holding a captured plasma rifle in one hand and a blade in the other. "I'm not a toy," he said. "I'm her husband." The fight was fast and wild. Ethan didn't move like a soldier, but he moved like a man with nothing left to lose. He shot one guard, then ducked under another and stabbed upward. He used anger like armor. Two tried to grab him. He threw a burning torch in their faces. Vera kicked one of her guards as he tried to flee. "Ethan," she shouted. He ran to her side, blasted the chains, and caught her as she fell. "You came," she whispered. He held her close. "I told you I don't leave my wife behind." They escaped into the tunnels, this time together. Behind them, smoke rose from the camp. The scavengers wouldn't follow, not now, not after what Ethan did. Later, beneath a collapsed roof of stone and roots, they found a quiet place to rest. Ethan wrapped a torn cloak around Vira's shoulders. "You're hurt," he said softly. She shook her head. "You should have left." He looked at her. "I'm not leaving. Not again." She touched his face, eyes soft now. "You were supposed to be just a cover. A fake bond. A name. But now?" he asked. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him again, deeper this time, slower. When they broke apart, she said, "Now, you're real." The bond that changed the galaxy. The royal palace had never been this quiet, not in 1,000 years. As Ethan and Vera walked through the grand gates, every alien noble, warrior, and elder turned to stare. Some with hatred, some with disbelief. A few with awe. Vera wore no crown, no armor, just a simple cloak, half-burned, blood-stained. But her eyes shone with strength, with truth. Ethan walked beside her, not behind her, as her equal. Behind them, a stolen ship hovered. On its screen, a recording was ready to play. Inside that recording, proof: the rebellion, the assassination plan, Chiron's betrayal, the manipulation of the sacred bond. All of it. Inside the great chamber, High Elder Xeron rose. "You return. Without summons. You dare speak after fleeing judgment?" Vera stepped forward. "I return not as a princess. I return as a survivor. And I bring truth." The video played. The gasps echoed. Chiron's voice filled the hall, confessing his plan to murder Vira, destroy the Empire, and use Ethan as a scapegoat. The elders looked stunned, some enraged, others ashamed. Then Chiron himself stood, face red with fury. "Lies, that's a fake." Ethan stepped forward. "I was there. I heard you. I bled for her because you tried to end her. You called her weak. She's not." Ethan's voice rose, steady now. "You feared our bond because you knew it was stronger than your power. And now your lies are over." Guards moved toward Chiron. He shouted, struggled, but it was done. As he was dragged out, he looked back at Vera. "You chose a human over your blood." Vera didn't blink. "No, I chose what's right." In the days that followed, the Empire changed, not all at once, not with fireworks, but with quiet shifts. The Council lifted the bond restriction between species. Ethan was invited to stay, not as a guest, but as a bridge between worlds, and Vera was named something new. Not princess, not soldier. Peacemaker. On the edge of the city, in a quiet garden beneath purple trees, Ethan sat with Vera. Her head rested on his shoulder. "No more running," she said softly. He smiled. "I was just starting to enjoy it." She looked up at him, a small smile playing on her lips. "You know," she said, "on the day we met, I wanted to kill you." "I know," Ethan laughed. "You told me, twice." She leaned closer. "Now, I just want to keep you." He kissed her forehead. "Good. Because I'm not leaving. Later that week, a new celebration was held. Not forced, not royal, not for politics. It was a real wedding, a bonding of two souls, human and alien, surrounded by those who believed in love over rules, truth over fear. As Vera placed the ceremonial crystal on Ethan's chest, the light flared, bright, pure, and strong. A sign, not just a bond. A union that could shape the galaxy. Years later, stories were told across stars of a human who walked through the wrong door and found the right heart, of a princess who was born to fight, but chose to love, and of a bond once called a mistake that saved two worlds. The end.